Hey, what's up, everyone? I woke up a little late, so sorry for the wait. I'm still getting a little bit set up right now, but you should be able to hear me okay. So I'm just gonna test. I'm gonna be testing a couple things, and then we can get started. For the time being, if you're here, you can go ahead and start asking me any questions that you have. But before we do that, let's go ahead and start sharing your scores, because you should have gotten your scores pretty recently. So let's look. Looking at starting a Q&A. 800. Okay. Okay, and now it looks like we're good to go. Obum, welcome to the stream. Right now, I'm just doing I'm doing a couple checks, but I see you there. I'll be back in a moment. If you have any questions, go ahead and start sending them over. Okay, so really quickly, what I'm doing right now is I'm just doing a quick announcement. August SATs. Avika, welcome to the stream. I'm still kind of setting up, but you guys are all welcome to share your scores here and chat, brag about how you did, or not, and then we can get started with the questions. Okay, I'm just catching up on all this. All right. Okay, so I think I'm more or less ready to start. Now, my only sort of the only debate in my head is, should I allow course enrollees to chat with me right now? But I guess it's kind of a last minute thought, so let me think. No, yeah, I'm not gonna do that right now because it's too last minute. All right, so let's get into it now. What's up, guys? What scores did you guys get? First of all, let's just get started there. We got a we got a 660 on reading. We got a 670 on reading. We got a 700 on reading. Okay. Good job, guys. It looks like maybe we should split it off between. Actually, for chat, I need to figure out like an easy way to kind of make this conversation go a little bit smoother. So maybe tell us your target scores as well. So target 800, actual. You know what? I'm gonna do it this way. Let me change the question here. Interesting. When you do a question, there's like a whole separate chat. That's kind of confusing. But it seems like you guys are more interested in talking about the reading writing, right? So I think this is probably a better chat. Probably a better chat. All right, so looking at you guys one more time. So Sohum got 60 points less than you wanted. Or no, you're aiming for 6 points higher on September. We have Avika, who is weak on grammar. So, is that true? Are you actually weak on grammar? Didn't we talk about this there in the server? It wasn't it like a time management issue, or was it someone else? No, that was someone else. Okay, yeah, yeah. Hey, that was someone else. Someone else that I know. No, wait, I think that was you. I think you bombed the grammar not because you bombed the grammar not because you're weak on grammar. You bombed the grammar because you didn't manage your time, something like that, right? You are too late to register for the September SAT. Is it possible a seat opens up later on? I think that doesn't really happen. But it doesn't hurt to just email. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that doesn't happen. I'm pretty sure that doesn't happen. I don't know the detail of that specifically, but you could always just call them or email them and just ask. So if you have that available to you, just go and contact them, and you can just hear them explicitly tell you that you can't do that. Grammar questions were hard this time. I mean, uh, the problem with the word hard is that it's kind of subjective when I'm hearing it from a student. So, but I will say that I've noticed in recent SATs that they kind of have been testing different kinds of things. So there, so if you learned grammar only for the SAT, you never really learned grammar before, and you only learned the small like you learned a sort of like specifically defined, honed set of lists, a set of rules that are specifically for the SAT. And those rules were all based on like the blue books, and it wasn't really about grammar just generally. Like, it's possible that the SAT is teaching, sorry, it's possible that the August SAT was testing some SAT rules that, just anyone who's really good at English would know, but that didn't used to come out a lot in the previous 2020, like 2024 or 2023 SATs. And so you might have been overly like overly focused on certain patterns, and you could have gotten tripped up based on that. You messed up on SEC. I mean, standard English conventions is, I mean, the minds. I guess I could talk about a mindset, but it's really hard for me to know without knowing your scores. So actually, at least Avika kind of told me her score level. Ayush, can you actually share your target score and your actual score, and I can kind of tailor my advice more to your score level um, because the game changes. People think the SAT is just one thing. Like, no, actually, no. You actually have to have more skills when you're at like, I don't know, like when you're at like 700 trying to break through to 750. You need different, like you need more skills at that point than from 750 to 800. So if you give me your scores, right, then it helps me to identify where you are and to give you better advice. So yeah, target score, actual score. Now, Wow it may try to super score because you were getting 770s. And then in your previous chat, you said you got a 740 on reading writing. Oh, uh, wait. Oh, I got it. So you were getting 770 on Blue Book. You got a 740 on August. And so, hey, and you're really happy with your score. So, hey, congratulations, first of all, on getting the score, getting a high score. So I guess you hit the 50, you broke the 1500 boundary. Yeah, it looks like you got 1510. So congrats. And if you could share some wisdom, you're telling me that I helped you out. That's good. I feel great. Just a quick question. What did you notice in the videos, or what did you notice in my content that helped you the most? Sohum is asking a pretty straightforward question. Let me quickly answer that. 60 points on the reading section is pretty achievable between August SAT and September SAT, if certain conditions apply. Like, for example, you have to have, for example, obviously, to say the stupid thing, obviously, if you're scoring 750, you can't jump 60 points because there's no 810. Also, a little bit more seriously, like it is way easier to jump 60 points from 1200 to 1260. Sorry, from 550 to 610 than it is to jump 60 points from 610 to 670 than it is to jump 60 points from 670 to 730. Like, it's much more obvious what you need to do, because you don't have to solve everything. You just need to solve a couple things. The lower down you are, and and one other thing is test taking mechanics. A lot of times, people, like, this is something that happens over and over and over, and this is not just like this year or last year. I'm talking about when did I start doing these streams? I started doing these streams before the digital SAT in like 2021, I think, in 2021. And just from the streams only, right? I'm not talking about my classes. I'm not talking about tutoring. I'm just talking about the streams only. Like, just from the streams only, I'd get so many comments telling me, Saul, just because I watched your video, I started doing X, and then I jumped 50 points. Like, sometimes it's just the approach that you're using that's messing you up. And if it's true that the approach that you're using is messing you up, then yeah, you can jump 60 points relatively easily. If it's conversely, if your approach is already pretty much close to optimal, but you're just capped by your English ability and your vocab and your grammar and your logical reasoning, all that other stuff, then yeah, it's very unlikely that you're going to jump 60 points between August SAT and September SAT, because that's only like 3 weeks in between. And starting from today, you only have like 1 week left until the September SAT. So yeah, there's not a lot. So there's a lot of different conditions under which that applies. But to summarize, okay, it's easier to jump 60 points when you are lower down the scale, and it's easier to jump 60 points if your test-taking mechanics are garbage. Because when your test-taking mechanics are garbage, that means your actual intellectual output is higher than your score, and so you just need to cover up that ground by fixing up your test-taking mechanics. Wow is dropping the. I think Wow was answering the question that I was asking earlier. Wow was saying, answering the question, what did you see in my videos that helped you get a score that you're happy with? And and yeah, thank you. I think 600 reading writing till. Okay, wait, 600? What? That's a huge jump. Holy crap. It's a 600 reading writing to 740 reading writing is a massive jump. Okay, so that's crazy. uh, uh, so congratulations. That must feel really, really good. Maybe I need to change the. I was debating earlier, like for YouTube, I have to like kind of simplify it, but I guess maybe that's probably a better question. Instead of target versus actual, like on the Discord server, I asked for all of them. Like I asked for target and actual and previous best and first SAT score and all that stuff. But here in YouTube, it's just hard to ask all that in this one chat. So I wonder if that's the better format. Let me change it up. No one's actually even replying to this one, so let me try a different one. Wait, how do I make this like a single line that makes it easy for people to read? Uh, Score progression? What do I need to say? Score progression. First score. First. Is this like a good way to? Should I write it like this? Does that make stuff? Oh God. I don't know, man. It's kind of hard to ask that question in like a single line. I don't know. I'll think about this later on. Give me a sec. Let me turn my fan on because I'm like hot. Okay. So I'm looking at Razel. You got 700 on English. Jumping up from 600, Razel, and analyzing the strategy. Yeah, so also going back to Wow, and also to Razel, just wondering what strategy, what changed in your strategy? Like what was the way that you used to solve it in the past? And then you saw the videos and you saw how I was solving it, and then you started changing something, right? What was that? But congratulations, Raziel. 100-point increase from 600 to 700. That's big. So that must feel good. So good job on the August SAT. Ayush is asking tips for grammar. Okay, so oh yeah, I forgot about that. I forgot to come back to you, Ayush, earlier. But if you're in the 700 range, if you're trying to break 700 range and you're still struggling on grammar, the good news is that you can jump up 20 points just from grammar alone. Maybe more, depends on how bad you are on grammar. So I think for grammar, the tips are it's really just the basics. Okay, solve some grammar questions. Go back and review them. When you review them, make sure you know exactly why the right answers are right and exactly why the wrong answers are wrong. I don't. For grammar specifically, I think it does help a lot to do the sort of intense thing with like looking at every single answer choice in review. Okay, during the real test, the mentality has to shift a little bit, but during review, you look at every single answer choice and you try to determine exactly the moment at which the sentence gets wrong. Okay, so and if you don't know it for all four answer choices, why three of them are wrong and why this one is correct, then even if you got that question right, you still put it into like an error log or a flashcard system or something so that you can actually review it and learn and completely master that mistake. If you haven't done like a grammar course at all, right, you should also do a grammar course. The most popular grammar course that is commonly recommended is the Erica Meltzer. I will launch a grammar course as well. I just don't know when right now because I'm still in the middle of planning. But it could be really soon or it could be a little bit later, like closer to the December SAT. I'm not sure. But it definitely won't be before the September SATs. So until that exists, I can't really recommend my own because it doesn't exist. But grammar, you really do just have to grind it and actually review what you're getting wrong and not just look at superficial patterns, but you need to know why the right answers are right and the wrong answers are wrong. Okay, you need to be able to explain it. So that's the general that's just the general approach to your studies. Okay, again, one more time, you should not be satisfied. Okay, you should not reward yourself just for getting an answer right. You can only tell yourself that you're done with that question when you can explain why all the wrong answers are wrong and why the right answer is right. You need to be able to do the whole shebang. Okay, so that's for studying the grammar. Now, for actually the mental process of solving grammar, that's slightly different. The process of solving grammar, if you notice the way I do it, it's actually probably kind of hard to see what I'm doing because when I'm solving grammar, I'm doing it very fast, right? Like I spend like, I don't know, anywhere between 5 to 15 seconds on a question, and then I'll be confident, I'll know I got it right, and then move on. So for that, I would say very very generally speaking, like what's actually happening in my head is I'm sort of reading the sentence, and as I'm reading each chunk of the sentence, I'm like forecasting what kind of sentence could come out. Okay. Uh, so I call this predictive reading, but I will probably have to rename that because when I say prediction in my class, that means something more specific. And then when I say predictive reading, that means something else. So I don't want to use the same word predict for two different concepts. But for now, at least during the paper SAT, I used to call this predictive reading. And I'm kind of imagining what possible sentences could be coming out. And then when I hit the blank, then I look at A and I plug in A and then I keep reading. And oftentimes at that point, just based on the prediction of the rest of the sentence, I can already have pretty high confidence whether A is right or wrong and what kind of fix I need to make. But at that moment when I plug A in, um, in more or less an instant, I'm kind of like identifying where the error will be in the sentence. Okay, and if I can find the error, then what happens is I look for the correction in my head. I don't look for it from B and C and D. I don't plug B and C and D. I actually just fix the sentence the way I would as a writer in my head, and then I look for A, B, C, D. I look for my match in the answer choices. Now, that could sound extremely abstract. Like, what does that even mean? But the thing is, you have to take everything I just said and you have to break it down into actual steps, and then you have to compare your own steps. Like, what are you actually doing versus what Saul is doing? Very likely, you're probably just plugging in A and then B and then C and then D, and it's taking you a long time because you can't. And very likely, you're not fully just reading and immersing yourself in the sentence. You're just trying to remember rules and stuff and remember patterns, and it's the way you're doing it is probably inefficient. But yeah, but the nice thing about grammar is that literally, if you just practice a lot, you get better at it. Uh, yeah, if I could. Okay, so I'm getting the request from Ayush to drop the grammar course before October SAT, and I can't make any promises right now. I mean, even the October SAT is very soon. It's only like 4 weeks from now, maybe five. Um, but noted. I heard you. No promises as of now. Avika is saying, should you rewatch my unit videos? I mean, I think, well, that kind of just depends on how well you internalized the lessons and the concepts. If you took good notes and if you fully internalized how that all works, I mean, there's gonna be some marginal benefit. Like maybe when you read it, when you watched it the first way through, you probably absorb what, like 70% of it, maybe 80% of it, maybe even 90% of it. I don't know. So then when you go and rewatch it, you'll notice some things that are new, or you'll understand some things that you didn't understand the first time. So it's okay. So I think it's gonna be beneficial for you to rewatch it. Like, you won't rewatch it and think, oh, I gained nothing from it, because you probably will gain something from it. But I don't know. It kind of just depends on the need, right? For example, I would encourage somebody to rewatch it if they've been out of practice for a long time, for like at least a month, right? And then they might kind of have forgotten some of the basics and like the reasoning that makes my system work for me, right? Like they forget why it works and stuff because and they're already reverting back to their old habits, like rushing the reading and just doing process elimination all the time, right? So when you start noticing that there's a problem in the way that you're solving the test, then I think you're going to be much more ready to learn from the videos by rewatching them. But right now, I think the impression I'm getting is that it's still very fresh in your head. So so probably you should just practice. You gotta yeah you gotta just you gotta like every unit you need to like give yourself time to actually absorb those habits and actually apply them to your to your test taking. Let's see. Ayush is saying, would I recommend in-depth reading of the passage or oh, Ayush, you don't know the answer? You don't know the answer to this question? Okay. The whole brand of Saul Lee, right? My whole spiel is read the passage slowly, but not slowness for slowness' sake. It's just that when you read the passage the same way that I do, you'll notice that you are reading more slowly, but but the and that's a cost, right? That means it's more time. But the benefit, the reward for reading the way that I read is uh, that you have a better map of the passage, like you know where the information is, and you know the relationships between the various parts of the passage. So when you have that in your head, and you go into the answer choices, it becomes a lot clearer, like what the answer is supposed to be. So then you can make a prediction and then match the answer. So I would say you should read in a way that helps you have a dumb but accurate prediction. If you read very fast, then your predictions are going to be inaccurate and low in confidence. Okay? If you read slow for slowness' sake, you might have an accurate prediction, but you might also have like an overly sophisticated and complicated prediction, and it's just too much. Like you're like trying to be too perfect. But if you have a dumb, but if you are reading just slow enough to have a dumb and accurate prediction, because it's accurate because you did get, you're only saying factual things, but it's dumb in the sense that you're not really trying to predict word for word what the correct answer will be. You're kind of just getting the important idea there. Then you're probably reading at the right speed. Avika is asking, do I actually say my prediction in words to myself? No, I like. How about this? I'm gonna say the truth is I don't, right? But to students who are learning how to do it, I make them do it. Because when you make yourself do it, okay, when you make yourself do it, it it improves, like it shows you where your weaknesses are in your understanding of the passage, and then you can go back and improve your understanding of the passage, and then you can go into the answer choices and have actual like something to actually hold on to. So it's kind of like how in geometry classes, like you're supposed to write out every single step of your proof. Sorry, I got some hiccups right now. In geometry classes, you have to write every step of the proof. Even though, like, if you're good at math, you'll realize that, like, a lot of these steps on the proof are very obvious, right? Why would I could just skip these steps and I'm not going to get confused. But when you're in that's because you're more advanced in your class, right? That you can compute things faster than your class. Okay, so you're kind of cheating it, right? And you're cheating it because you're so confident in your processes. But when you're a beginner, like you really need to write out all those steps. You need to know exactly why, one thing leads to the next, leads to the next. Like if without knowing that, like you can't skip steps, right? Because you don't even know why it's true. So you can't build that confidence. So it's the same thing with prediction. Like if you actually write it out, okay, over and over and over, then you can start saying it out loud over and over and over. And when you start saying it out loud over and over and over, then you can start sort of not saying it out loud over and over and over. And then your predictions just get better and better and better. And it gets to a point where it's kind of like me, where I don't actually have to say anything in my head, but I just know what I'm looking for, right? Like I know I'm looking for an increase in, I don't know, like growth rates of these plants under the condition of certain like nitrogen deposition or whatever. And like I kind of know, I just like know, I know what I'm looking for, and then I look for A, B, C, D, and I look for an increase when nitrogen deposition is like high or whatever. So, so that's so to summarize, you need to be very clear about what the difference is between the learning process versus the actual execution of a very high scorer. Okay, the actual execution of a very high scorer looks like they're not really saying anything out loud, but the learning process of getting to the actual execution of a high scorer does entail actually writing it out, actually saying it out loud, actually wrestling with the passage and slowing down there and figuring out exactly what you're looking for. Yeah, notes during the paper. These are things you need to experiment with, Ayush. You should experiment with taking notes on the paper. Um, and this is not, there's no like, I can't say one answer that is true for everyone, okay? Like, maybe when you experiment with it, you'll realize that you actually don't need to take any notes at all, okay? But I do generally in my classes for my groups, I do teach students um, to at least try it, okay? And then I specifically encourage them to take notes on really dense passages. Um, it's when they go back to those really dense passages uh, in extra time. So if you finish if you finish all 27 questions the first pass, and then you have like 5 minutes left, and you have like one question you're looking at, it's super dense, then yeah, why not just take notes, right? It'll help you break it down. Also, I'm noticing there's maybe more people who are just sort of lurking around in chat. I First of all, I encourage you to brag or commiserate. Go and share your score into chat. What were you actually targeting? So you were targeting, I don't know, 750. And what did you actually get? You got, I don't know, 720. Alternatively, if you do want to brag, then you can say what your first SAT score was and what your latest SAT score is. First SAT score and last SAT score. Ayush, I actually don't spend a lot of time teaching grammar with textbooks, so I actually don't know the best resource for understanding grammar. I didn't go around comparing grammar textbooks. I kind of just am my own textbook, and so I don't really refer to other people's texts. So I don't know what the best resource is. All I know is that the most popular one that everyone uses is Erica Meltzer. Avika said something a little bit ago, which I think I didn't really fully follow up on, which is if you tell yourself the prediction at the end of each passage, you lose time. Yeah, but are you talking about the real test or are you talking about the practice test? Because if you're doing the practice test, I mean, you're not only going to do one practice test, you're going to do multiple practice tests, right? So the whole point of prediction is to save time on the answer choices. If you're saving time on the answer choices because of your predictions, and your predictions get better and better across multiple practice tests, then on the real test, you can just predict, and you'll still save time. The balance, like on net, you'll save time, but like it's not gonna happen just in like well, actually, for some people, it literally happens overnight. Like they just fix it in one shot, right? But other people they will actually need to practice. What do you call it? For most people, you have to actually practice the prediction itself based on the question type. And so I don't recommend sinking all your time trying to predict like a logical inference question, right? That logically completes questions, when you can't even predict like word and context questions. Like the word and context questions are the ones that you should be predicting first. The easiest questions to predict are transition questions and word and context questions, because those are things that just fall into patterns eventually. Then you should build up to like overall structure, part function, and main purpose questions. Detail questions and inference questions, like detail and detail inference questions, require a bit of a unique pathway. And then main idea questions are kind of a synthesis, which are it's hard to talk about generally, but basically you need to be able to you just need to paraphrase the entire passage in your own words, and then the evidence questions are quite easy to predict, although in terms of like the steps to follow. But they are a little unique because you need to flip the direction of the fence, and then logical inference questions I would save for last, because they're just so much hard. They just require so many more skills. Like it's just a step above all the others. So on the real test, I mean, you might have to be strategic with which questions that you are predicting on and which questions you're just sort of using whatever hobbled together mess that you have, right? But the goal is during practice to actually get better. Okay, Beast Boy, you got. I mean, for some people, 1410 isn't terrible. For other people, it is terrible. So I can't really comment. But sorry to hear that you didn't get the score that you wanted. To help me understand your situation a little bit better, do you mind sharing your target score and your actual score? And can we break that down into reading, writing versus math? Okay, so Beast Boy is looking at 700 reading, writing, and 710 math, and is trying to get a 140-point increase. And you did awful on the math compared to your previous test. And Beast Boy, just quick question: Is there anything that you've in watching my videos, has anything changed in your test taking approach? What impact did watching my videos have on your test taking? Because as far as I can tell, from what I can tell, it seems like you must have changed your approach fairly dramatically on the test, and maybe it was just your stamina. Okay, you didn't do that before, as in, I mean, to be fair, your reading writing went from 720 to 700, so that's not good, but it's not a huge difference. Okay, so yeah, you did make some changes, so that's good to know. Okay, I'm kind of clear on that now. It seems like if it dropped that much, there was a bit of panic or a bit of nerves, or maybe just like a bit of stamina, and maybe you're sleep deprived. Maybe if you're flying from like Asia back to the States, then you could have jet lag. And so those are factors that could affect you. So for that, I'll just say, okay. And if you didn't study math at all, that obviously, if you didn't prepare it, yeah, I feel like you're starting to tell yourself your own answer actually for what happened there. Are you signed up for the September SAT? I think if you have the September SAT, the lessons are already kind of out there in writing now. The half predictions are not a good idea. You should be preparing. You should be actually doing practice. Ideally, you can practice on Saturday mornings. And you should commit to solving it in the same way every time. Okay, because on test day, and this is the thing I'll just say right now to answer you before flipping on to other people's questions, but on test day, it is such a predictable and avoidable disaster. And nevertheless, thousands of students, okay, have the same experience, the same train wreck every SAT test day. What am I talking about? I'm talking about that thing that you do on test day where you decide last minute to try some strategy that you've never tried. Like maybe in all your practice tests, okay, you would solve it from 1 through 27 in that order. But on the real test, okay, you decide, oh God, I'm running out of time. And so you decide to skip questions 11 through 15 when you've never done that before. Right? Or like if you're in my classes, like you've been practicing pausing, predicting, then matching, right? But then on actual test day, you're like, I need to read faster. So you just read faster and then you go straight into cross-elimination. Like, that's just your nerves, okay? And it's like, just to draw the analogy out, like imagine that you have practiced, okay, throwing fastballs in baseball. You have practiced throwing fastballs like 1,000 times. You have practiced throwing curveballs 0 times. Then why is it that suddenly on test day, the one thing that you never practiced would be better than the thing that you practiced 1,000 times? Logically, there's no reason why it would be better because, it's a separate skill. But on test day, people panic and suddenly they switch to the one thing that they didn't really practice. It's always going to ruin your score. Like, just, it is never a good idea to treat test day like the day that you're going to do the one thing that you've never tried before. Okay? So, please avoid that. Stick to what you know. Okay? Commit to your plan. Which is why, by the way, if you're in my server, I always asked the same questions, or I ask these questions on test day and post test day. I ask you, what is one thing that you will commit to doing on the test tomorrow? And then once the test is over, how well did you follow through on your commitment, right? I ask this to my students in my community. Okay, so if you want that kind of accountability, you can join the SAT, my SAT server. Okay, and you can remind yourself what it is that you're committing to do before test day and get a little bit of social and peer accountability. For the graph questions, somebody was asking earlier. Yeah, the main problem with graph questions is that a lot of times people just end up they try to brute force A, B, C, D, but you're actually wasting a huge amount of time by doing that. For graph questions, it's actually one of the classic examples of where predictive match will instantly save you like 5 minutes on a given module. Sometimes 5 minutes sounds like a lot, but it actually does happen. You can save a lot of time on graph questions by predicting and matching. So that's my big recommendation is when you find the claim, okay, the claim that you're supposed to support or to weaken, okay, do not go into A and B and C and D, okay? You're going to waste time if you do that. Instead, take the 10 seconds, maybe more, maybe less, that you need to go back to the graph and figure out exactly what you are looking for, okay? And when you have the numbers or the names or the attributes or whatever, when you know exactly what you're looking for, then and only then do you actually go into A and B and C and D, because now you're going to start scanning the answer choices for your prediction. And when you do that, you've found your match and you will save so much time on those questions. Oh, Beast Boy, it sounds like you're very familiar with my terminology. So if you do my course, do I think it's kind of confusing to me, but actually, like bouncing off of that last sentence, you're going to be implementing a new framework. Right now, my course, so in the future, my course is going to be a lot of practice, but right now my course is largely the theory with a little bit of practice. So I would say actually, if it's the framework, like if you want to understand the framework and like how the different parts of the strategy work, right? And how even though you waste time here, you might actually save time here and doing this and that, right? I would say actually that's what the course is actually really good for right now. Okay. In the future, by the way, if anyone's curious, like I'm probably gonna have a sort of like a cheaper tier for just the theory, and like a more and like a higher tier for a more premium tier, I guess is like the marketing terminology, right? For like the fully featured course where you get like a bunch of like the grammar course and the vocab course and all that other stuff, and like the question by question practice or whatever. So I'll probably have separate tiers for that. But the theory part of it is basically 80% complete. It's just like I want to go and edit them and make it better and stuff, but at least the ideas are all right there. You get all the main ideas. So yeah, I think the course should be right for you if you're trying to figure out if you want to like tighten up your framework. But I mean, to be totally honest, I mean, if you're really smart and if you're really like attentive, okay, you could figure out the framework just by watching how I solve it. I mean, a lot of a lot of kids who, so the most common kids I get from people who are not course enrollees, okay? Uh, I'll get like emails and comments and Discord like messages or whatever, but like people will tell me, "Oh, Saul, I was stuck at like 750, but thanks, or like 720 or something like in the low to mid 700s, and then they pop and get like a 780 or 790 or 800, right? And they'll tell me thank you because they could kind of infer just from watching me all the things that they needed to change, and they could also guess why it works, even though like Avika said earlier, should you really be predicting on every single question? Well, because it takes time to predict the answer to the question, and especially if you say it out loud or if you write it out loud, that takes time, right? And I'm saying yes, but the reason that works is because of this and this and that. And these kids who are really sharp, they can kind of figure out why it works, and then they just implement it into their system, and then they never take my course, but they still send me these thank you messages, right? So if that's you, you don't have to take my course. Like, it's like I'm proving I'm proving what works by just showing you how I actually do it. But yeah, if you want the actual explanations of how everything works, then it's all there in the course. Crypto is saying practice for textual evidence and inferences. Oh, actually, I think Crypto, you just came in when I was talking about. Oh, this is textual evidence. But textual evidence, I don't like how the College Board calls those questions textual evidence, because there's two types of textual evidence questions that are pretty different in like broadly speaking, they're kind of similar, but like when you get into the nitty gritty of it, it's quite different, because there is the findings, which finding if true, ... There are the findings, the empirical evidence, and then there is the quotations, right? Which quotation? And those are pretty different. So let me know which one you're talking about. I'm gonna guess you're probably talking about findings. But findings is actually, people clump the findings and the inferences together because they're the hard ones. But actually, findings has a very straightforward plan of attack, whereas inferences requires many skills. So you might be surprised. You can actually improve on findings very quickly. But you have to confirm for me what your actual issue is. Okay, let's go back to random question. Do I perfect score on math? No, I don't perfect score on math. Not anymore. When I was in high school, yes, I was good at math. But during college, I stopped doing math, and now it's been like multiple decades that I haven't really been doing math. So I get in like the 700s. It's like somewhere, but I don't really remember. But I just haven't taken the test in a while, so I don't even know where I would fall anymore. Now, I am pretty confident if I actually studied. Every time I've gone to the SAT test center to take the SAT, I actually never studied the math. But if I study the math, then I'm pretty sure I would actually get like a 790, 800. But I don't. But yeah, I just don't. I don't really think about math. Avika got perfect math score, except God, yeah. Waking up early could be beneficial. That really depends on the person. But if you are somebody that struggles in the morning generally, all I can say is. Excuse me. Okay. Guys, I'm a little tired, so I'm gonna wrap this up soon. So, by the way, if you're watching and you haven't asked the question and it's on your mind, you should ask it now. I'm gonna wrap up soon. Going back to Beast Boy, I do think waking up early is beneficial, but I also think you should not, okay? You should not do too many new things on Saturday, okay? On test day, for example, if you're the kind of person that always wakes up and drinks coffee, then yeah, sure, drink coffee. But if you've literally never in your life drank coffee on Saturday morning, then do not, for the love of God, start drinking coffee on test day. Okay? If you've if you're like a sleep deprived kind of person, you always have awful sleep, right? So as a compensation, like as a compensatory mechanism, like you've tried this before, where you wake up like 2 hours early, and then like you read books or you read the news or you solve some problems or whatever, and like you try to get your brain started, and you've done this before on other important dates, then yeah, on this upcoming Saturday, go ahead and try that. It could help because you already know that it works. But do not just do something new on that day, because you're like, for the first time in your life, because you're gonna realize that there's other things that happen. Maybe you get fatigued earlier, right? And now you're not ready for that. So as a general rule of thumb, don't do anything new on test day. Now that might be a little extreme sounding, but generally the costs outweigh the benefits of trying new things, because now there's more uncertainty. Okay, there's more unforeseeable effects of trying new things on test day. You should try that new idea before test day, like tomorrow's Saturday, right? So force yourself to take a practice test at 8 a.m., but try waking up at 6 a.m. and see what happens, right? Like, try it before test day and then make your decision. Do not try it on test day. Earlier, Crypto had a question, so I'm going to come back to Crypto, which was for findings and inferences. Look, again, inferences is depends on your score right now, and I don't think Crypto actually shared his score or her score, but inferences is almost certainly the last priority for you. Like, so I'm not gonna touch on inferences unless you actually tell me your score and I can actually figure out where you are. But and I think I've said it, but I'll say it one more time. The reason it's your last priority is because there's so many skills that you need to have to even start getting the right prediction, okay? To even know what you're looking for. For findings, though, that's actually quite achievable. And it's similar to what I already said about data questions. What did I say about data questions? I said that when you get to the claim, do not rush right into supporting and weakening it in the answer choices, okay? Instead, take the 10 seconds and figure out what part in the data, okay, is going to actually come out in the answer choices, right? There's going to be a specific number, right? So if it says something like, if the data talks about what do you call it? The wing sizes of flies, okay, and at different temperatures, at different seasons, and the claim says something like in hotter seasons, the flies get bigger. Dude, why are you trying to plug in A and B and C and D? That is ridiculous. Like, why? Like, don't look at A and B and C and D. Look for the hotter seasons and look for the greater wing sizes. It's like ridiculous that you're reading like 12 lines of text in A and B and C and D instead of just looking for the answer. And it'll literally say in July, the wing size is like 2.4, like 2.4, and that's like the greatest number. The largest, the biggest wing size is in July or whatever, right? And then, so you just look for 2.4. I mean, it's like, that's how you do data questions. Well, same thing with findings, except you don't get a table. So you're looking in the passage and you're looking for the experiment design. Okay, in the experiment design, what do they talk about? They talk about they took the soil cores and they moved it to this place and they moved it to that place, and then they put they controlled for this variable, but then but when you move it to this place or that place, then this is what happens, and then they have a hypothesis, and so you have to figure out using the soil cores, and then place number 1 and place number 2, what is actually the prediction. So it's harder than data questions because you have to actually come up with a number and you have to come up with a prediction on your own, but it is the same pattern of play. So my one sentence tip is do not go straight into the answer choices. Okay? Take a deep breath and come up with a prediction. Avika is asking about threading different characters when there's so many different characters. Yeah, actually, I remember you asking this a couple times now, because but I get it. You know, it's hard. It's really hard, and I would just say, for that, practice makes perfect, and there's no shortcut really. You just need to keep getting better at it. You just need to get better at it. And the way you get better at it is not by some big theoretical answer that falls from the heavens. The way you get better at it is one question at a time. So you should, whenever you like, this is where a tutor really comes into play, but whenever you read a passage and you don't know what the threads are, you should try to get some help, like figuring out what the threads are. Now, you don't have to have a tutor for that. You can kind of simulate that experience by doing it with a friend, right? But like you could. So in my course, I talk about how to do threading on paper with annotations. I would actually, like, if I were you and if I didn't have the budget for a tutor, I would probably get another friend. I would teach a friend how to do threading. And then I would have us do it on like printouts, not on the OnePrep website, not on websites, like actually printed out paper, right? I would have it done on paper, and I would compare the annotations, right? And then we would discuss it, like, how are you supposed to make a prediction for this thing? Because like there's so many freaking characters. like what are the actual threads? And just double check other people's threads and see if they match up with your threads, you know. And I'm sorry, there's not really a shortcut for this. You just need to get better on it one question at a time. But yeah, threading is it's really painful at first. I mean, it can be really painful on some of those hard questions at first, but the more you do it, the better you get. And I am about to wrap up now. So, Drizzly, it seems like you have a very general question. So I encourage you to join the Discord server and ask the community. And if I have time, I'll drop in and say drop my own 2 cents. And earlier, I think it was it Beast Boy? To avoid getting cocky, you know, I think you kind of already know the answer, all right? But what I say in my classes all the time is confidence comes from evidence, okay? And people who are overconfident, okay, the reason, like you can take, some kids they are serially overconfident, like they're consistently overconfident. They always think they did better than they actually did. And if you actually kind of go to them and you ask them, question like, I don't know, question 14, what's your like you chose B, what's your confidence? And they'll say high. And then and then I'll say, okay, defend all parts of the answer. And then in the process of defending all parts of the answer, what'll happen is they'll be like, oh, and they'll be like, oh, actually it's A, high. Okay, like they won't even admit, okay, they won't admit that they started dropping in confidence in their original answer choice. They'll just quickly switch to some other answer choice. And I don't know, like we can kind of psychologize about why they do that. I'm not going to get into that right now. But what my tutoring looks like, at least in those situations, because it's kind of a unique problem, okay? Because it's actually not a majority of kids that fall into that pattern. But in my tutoring, what I do is I just sort of help slow down that thought process. It's like, okay, what part of B can you not defend? What does that do to your confidence? Okay, now that your confidence is low, what should you do the next time that you see a similar question? What should you do to at least have low confidence on the wrong answer? Not like, never mind getting high confidence on the right answer. What should you do next time to have low confidence on the wrong answer? And I just slow this whole process down. I think that overconfidence, this is just a very, very weakly held hypothesis, but I think, you know, gamers and like people who play sports and people who are a little bit more ADHD-ish, they tend to fall into this pattern quite a lot. So these kind of ADHD personalities that thrive on games and on sports, where you have to make decisions very, very quickly, they struggle sometimes with overconfidence on the SAT. And all I can say, the solution has already come out. It's just defend all parts. When you defend all parts, that calibrates your confidence for you. So if you are like, you're getting the causality mixed up, Beast Boy. Like, if you defend all parts, you will have the right confidence. It's not your overconfidence that is making you not defend all parts. Because overconfidence is just a result. It's just a feeling, or it's a thing that you have that you only know that you have it in retrospect, right? But defending all parts, that's a physical action. That's something that takes, you know, like a limited amount of time to, like, it doesn't take 1 hour to defend all parts, right? It's something that has a start, like I can put a stopwatch on it, right? It takes a certain number of seconds to defend all parts. It's an actual action that you can perform. There's no action called overconfidence that you can perform. It's just a state. So you need to separate the state, the interpretation of yourself from the actual actions that you're performing. And you have to just perform those actions. The action is defend all parts. And that is the solution. You already know the solution. All right, so that's it for me today. Guys, if you have further questions, come to me. You can come to the Discord server, just chat with everyone, and I will swoop by and say what I have. If you are curious about the course, you can learn more about it in the description down here. The description, there's going to be a link to my website, which is learn.increments.me, which I'll just quickly. This is the website, okay? And you can sign up for the September SAT cohort here for $30 a month. You'll learn the general approach, the framework, as somebody said earlier today, for why predict and match works, and you'll also have some practice within those videos as well. If you're also interested in tutoring, I have 14 years of professional tutoring experience. This is not counting all the tutoring I did when I was like in elementary school and middle school and high school, because I was tutoring since I was a kid. But not counting that, just 14 years professional tutoring experience. If your parents want to chat with me, I'm happy to chat with your parents. Just know that in the off season, my prices are $100 per hour if you book 8 hours. Okay, if you don't book 8 hours, then it's $133 per hour. Okay, so I find that 8 hours is a good starting point. It gives us 4 sessions of 2-hour classes. 2-hour classes are my recommendation. I can be flexible, but we'd have to chat. And it gives us a good starting point because it allows you to master one concept and actually follow through on that and actually build up on that skill. And then you can decide if more tutoring is needed or not. All right, so that's it for me. Good luck on the September SAT, everyone. I'll see you in the Discord server, and I'll see you here in YouTube. So until next time, keep on learning, keep on growing. Peace.